Well, welcome everybody. Just honored to have you here this evening for our second Chamber Chat meeting. These events are they're really informative. They're small, which is really good too, because we have a chance to talk about a lot of different topics. Tonight's topic this evening is managing your business in an unsettled economy. And so we have Steve Veazey here from SCORE, who is just a fantastic individual, and he's a leader in that organization, and which has been a great benefit to many people, and some of us here tonight. So I'm going to just welcome him right now. I don't think there's anything else we need to do except bathrooms are out the door to the right. Find that there, and just help yourself to any refreshments over there, and we'll get started. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Joel. Welcome, everybody. So does that work if I'm in this area? If I can run my slides? Good. Okay. So let's just start with maybe a little bit of introduction, which will help me understand, who's here a little bit. So can we just go around and maybe just speak to these questions? And if you don't want to talk about a challenge that your business is facing while we're in this part of the meeting when it's being recorded, we can leave that until later. But so why don't we start here with Bob and
Sure.
Give us a little introduction.
I'm Bob Berry. I own Mainland Development Consultants and Three Strands Publishing, and I'm affiliated with Franklin Savings Bank. Mainland is a land use consulting business. We have surveyors, scientists, and engineers here. So anything to do with land, the development of land, the preservation of land, whatever it is. My role is I'm the president. I was an engineer, still am an engineer here. I was an employee here before I bought the business 12 years ago, about. A challenge we're facing, we just opened, and we're also acquiring another small survey business, which we will be transferring into the Falmouth business. And so we're starting to learn about handling inter-office operations. We've always been under one roof, and now we won't be. That's a challenge we're fighting through right now.
Very good. All right. Yeah.
I'm Krista DiGiuseppe. I own Summit Support Services. We started in 2017. We offer case management for adults with autism and intellectual disabilities in Maine. I'm the managing director, and a challenge that we're facing is looking at opening new lines of service, how to do that, how to grow and scale.
Very good.
I'm Michelle Mackey. I'm a financial advisor. I'm a Ameriprise Financial.
Okay.
So I work with people with finances. I work with small businesses and setting up retirement plans, helping them navigate the different options that are available to them. Work with individuals and trying to make sure that they're on target for goals that they have, be it college, retirement, education, buying a house. Challenge I did have was finding a new person to work with me. But that has recently been addressed, which is fantastic. So she's on board,
Right. Yeah.
fully licensed, and that's the challenge, is when you need someone that has certain licensing criteria and you live in a very small town, and it's not something that people typically have. So, but other than that, things are going well. So just here to either help or to learn. I'm good with either.
Okay, excellent. So far, 3 for 3 on the service businesses here. So, Joel?
Yeah, Joel Gilbert from Berry Fruit Farm, Wholesome Housing, and I'm also the chair of the Chamber of Commerce here in Jay-Livermore and Livermore Falls. We are an agricultural business with a food service business as well, and our Wholesome Housing business is we've started a small landlord company, and so we're excited about that. I am the president of the company. My wife is also the president. of the company too.
Co-presidents.
Co-presidents.
Yeah, yeah. So we both love working with each other, and I'm grateful to my wife to kind of do this with. A challenge that we're facing, there's a lot of different fronts, as we have a lot of different diversity in our berry fruit farm business, but I think some of our challenges are learning how to pivot with the different changing needs of customers, consumers, especially over the past few years, and which is always just, we always want to meet the needs of our customers, and so staying in tune with that can sometimes be a challenge. I would say that a challenge for a visionary type person like myself is, where's this whole thing going? Where's the economy going, and how is that going to influence? So that's a challenge that I think about often. So
When you get that part figured out, maybe you could let us know, right?
Right, exactly. Thank you.
Next.
Justin Merrill, Merrill's Garage Inc., and also George Merrill and Son Logging. Merrill's Garage is a full-service garage from commercial trucks and trailers all the way to automobiles, tractors, light, heavy-duty, hydraulics. We do just about anything. On the logging side, we're a full-service logging contractor, stump to the mill, firewood, and everything in between. My role is, currently I pretty much do everything, seems like. I play truck driver during the early morning and late night, and technician in the garage during the day. And the biggest challenge that we face in both businesses is employees properly trained and being able to keep them. We've had one long-time employee that was irreplaceable that ended up becoming sick and passing away, and ever since that it's been a slight revolving door, hoping that we've somewhat solved that problem now, but that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, very good. So are you involved in the management of both of the businesses?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, very good. Do you want to introduce yourself here? We're kind of going through this.
Linda Grecian. I own a home business, bakery, so all kinds of baked goods. I specialize a lot in the pastries, but then again, I do gluten-free. Like I tell people, don't switch the recipe up, just switch your flour. And they have to do a lot to do that. My role, I own the business, I'm the baker, and I'm a delivery lady.
Yeah.
And my challenges are right now, I had the same thing as finding somebody that I could rely on. And I found a friend that goes to church with me, and I can rely on her to be there when I need her. It's only two of us right now. Before it was just me.
Right.
It got
Yeah, good.
too much for me.
Sure.
And another challenge is price and not being able to get products right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
It
good.
is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got some service businesses, we got some products businesses, so should facilitate a good discussion with the different kinds of businesses. So just by way of introduction for myself, I'm the SCORE Maine District Director. I've been with SCORE for 17 years, so but my background and career was as a financial manager and a CPA before I started volunteering for SCORE a few years ago when I retired. I'm one of 130 of us around the state of Maine, so we've got a really big organization around the state, so that we can help a lot of different kinds of businesses, because we've got a lot of different kinds of experience in our SCORE mentors. So in terms of SCORE, some of you saw this when I was at the chamber meeting last week, but our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. So those are the two things that we do. Our services are free. We do one-on-one mentoring for people, and we do educational workshops. And that's essentially all we do. We're not consultants. So consultants are different than mentors. Mentors are people who serve more as a coach and guide and challenge people's assumptions and so forth, as opposed to go off and prepare a report and deliver it to you to implement it. So we don't do that kind of thing. That's consulting. And so, that's a very deliberate change we made a few years ago. So I'm only going to talk for a few minutes tonight, and then we're going to get into some discussion. So the backdrop here is there's over 150,000 small businesses in Maine. So there's a lot of people running businesses. So a little bit about some of the economics, the macroeconomics. Businesses are continuing to recover from the pandemic. There was just a report out yesterday or the day before about the number of new jobs added across the country. Very positive thing. Consumer spending is critical to the recovery, and at this point still remains strong. Business confidence remains strong, which means increasing revenues generally. Although it may be starting to weaken a little bit in the last several weeks. Inflation is significantly impacting businesses of all kinds. The costs are going up and at a pretty rapid rate, and that's hard to manage. So inflation is impacting everyone. Supply chain disruptions are also having a big impact on a lot of businesses. Maybe not so much in the service businesses, but certainly in the products businesses. Energy and transportation costs are significantly higher, and everybody's got those expenses in their business. So that all sounds pretty good. So what's the problem, right? So these are some of the problems as I see it, and you might have. You might identify some things that I didn't put on this list, but inflation is increasing materials costs and operating expenses. We've got rising interest rates. Knowing when to adjust your selling prices, that's a problem, right? You've expressed that as a challenge. Supply chain disruptions are unpredictable. They really impact different businesses in different ways, but they're quite unpredictable, and the solutions to them are unpredictable. Labor shortages, some of you have mentioned that. It's hard to get good people. There's just not enough people available. Rising cost for the workers you do have. Wages have gone up. So whether it's people on hourly wages or people on salaries, those costs have gone up. Meeting upcoming cash commitments is a challenge in a lot of businesses when you get into situations where there's so many moving parts. So maybe you've got your tax bill is coming due and you need a lump of cash, and do you have it available? Funding monthly owner's draws, that's a challenge in some of these businesses, right? So it's really important in terms of supporting your household budget that you can get monthly draws from your business, but sometimes that's just not possible. And when your business is having some cash flow problems, the first thing that goes is the owner's draw, right? So so that's why managing cash is really important. And there's probably a myriad of other things that we could put on this list. So some essential management in these kind of times. And I'm going to talk a little more about each one of these 5 things, but I believe you really need to know your numbers. You need to be nimble and move quickly. You need to reflect on the current year in progress as to the results and start to project ahead. You always need to plan ahead, but particularly when things are a little unstable, it's more important to plan ahead. And then to act promptly when you've identified things that need to change. And so to do the analysis promptly and to actually make the changes promptly are important. So the first one is know your numbers. These are some of the things that I think you need to know, which are knowing your numbers. Knowing your sales trend by product or service. Right? Several of you are selling multiple products or multiple services. You need to know what's, what the sales trends are, which sales are increasing, which services are increasing, which ones are decreasing, and know the whys for why they're changing. Because you can't do anything about it unless you understand what's happening and why. You need to know which products or services contribute the most profit and which ones contribute the least profit. So not all things contribute equally in your business. And it's really important to understand which ones are the ones that make money for you and which ones are the ones that maybe only make a little money, maybe they're breaking even, or even worse, maybe they're losing money. So sometimes in a business with several lines of business or enterprises, there are parts of the business that is not doing well, and you're putting a lot of effort into it, and that seems like an opportunity maybe to cut back in that part of the business and focus your efforts on the stuff that's more profitable. So it's important to understand the components of your business and which ones contribute most profitably. I mean, there's the ones you love to do, but what you really need to focus on are the ones that generate the most profit for you, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to sustain your business is ongoing profitability. You need to know your cost of production or your cost of doing business. You need to know your gross margin percentages. And I'm going to divert to a little bit of a slide on gross margin in a second, so I'll come back to that. You need to understand your variable expenses. The variable expenses are the ones that change with sales, right? So cost of goods sold, shipping, transportation, things like that all vary with the amount you sell, versus the fixed expenses, which are also referred to as overhead expenses. They're the ones that they don't really change when your sales increase or decrease, right? So examples would be the rent you're paying for your facilities, or your insurance, or your interest, or your legal and accounting fees. Things like that, they're pretty much fixed and don't vary very much when your sales either go up or down. You need to know your near-term cash needs. So some of those might be things like lump sum payments on a loan, or your taxes coming due, property taxes. Maybe it's your income tax, your quarterly installment on your income tax is coming due. Maybe you've got some construction plan that you're adding some facilities, or buying a new piece of equipment, or a new pickup truck for the business. So those are kind of unusual lump sum amounts of cash that you need, and so you need to understand when those are coming up, how much they're likely to be, and where the money's going to come from. And then you need to know your cash flow by month. So if you understand your numbers, you're going to be in a lot better position to make decisions about your business. So in Joel's business, he's got a bakery. He's got some processed foods in there. He's got fresh fruit. He's got the farm side, right? So it's important to understand each component rather than just looking at the total sales.
Can I interrupt you real quick? That was really huge for us. We were doing so much, working so hard at what we really didn't need to be working hard at. And then we kind of finally said, all right, we got the store open, we got our products, now let's breathe and think. And when we thought about what we were doing, we're like, oh my gosh, we need to be dropping this particular product because we're working so hard at it. We're not making any money at it. We need to change, you know. Though we wanted it to work. You can't make the market do what you want it to do.
Right.
I mean, you know, and you can't make those things be profitable if they're just not.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Unless you change your price, but that
right, yeah.
there comes a point.
Yeah. So drilling down and understanding the components of the business and which parts are profitable and which ones are not. And sometimes people forget about the which ones are not. And you either eliminate them or severely cut them back. Or you, if you really think it's good for your long-term business, then you need to devise a plan as to how to make that part of the business more profitable. You've got to be more efficient. You've got to raise your prices. You've got to do something different. So you guys probably all know this, but I'll just review just a little bit because it's really important, you know, to in a business to understand your margin. And when we're talking about margin, we're talking about gross margin. And so if you look at the numbers in the first column, the starting, what I'm calling starting point, you know, this business has sales of $1,000, cost of goods sold of $600, so the gross margin is $400. So that's the gross margin dollars, and then there's the gross margin percentage, which is 40%. Okay? And the gross margin is the money your business generates to pay for all of your fixed costs and to pay you as the owner. And so that's why gross margin is so important, because you've got to cover those fixed costs before you can get paid, and at the end of the day, you want to be paid. So the gross margin is an important number in your business, and it's important, I think, to benchmark this number for against other businesses like you, so that you can evaluate how you're doing in your business. So if your gross margin is 40%, and other businesses are at 45%, well, there's an opportunity for you. There's something different in your business that maybe you can address. If your gross margin is 40% and other businesses are 30%, then great, you know, you're doing fabulous, right? So it helps to have a benchmark as to what's a reasonable gross margin for a business like yours.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Where would you go about finding that information as far as another business? Most people don't want to give up their information, so where would you go about finding another business that would be similar to get that kind of data?
So there's a number of different sources. So one is if you're part of an industry association. Industry associations often have that kind of information available, so that you can get financial studies where people have anonymously provided their information to the association so that they can accumulate data like this and generate numbers. Your public libraries, I don't know about your local public library, but a public library like Portland has a business librarian, and you can call the business librarian at the public library and ask them, tell them what you're looking for, and they will do some research, and they have a ton of databases that they can do some research and tell you what, what is a typical gross margin for a business like yours, sized similar to yours, and so forth. So that information is available. That if you're in the farming business, there's some information available through Cooperative Extension, for example. That's sort of the industry association, if you will, for farming. So there are sources available, and people who can help you find that. And so then if you start to change some of these numbers, so in the second column is we increase the sales volume, right? So we're not changing the prices, we're not changing our costs, we're just selling more product. And so you can see that if we sell $1,500, our cost of goods sold will be $900, but our gross margin dollars now have gone up from 400 to 600. So, you know, that's the best way to make money. Sell more product. It's not always possible to do. It's hard to do. You see the margin percentage stayed at 40%. If you have a price increase, I'm still comparing now to the first column. If you have a 10% price increase, then we're going to have $1,100 in sales. We're going to have the same $600 of cost of goods sold. Our gross margin dollars have now gone to 500 from 400. Our gross margin percentage has gone to 45. Likewise, on the the last column, if we have a cost decrease, so now our sales stay the same as they were in the initial case, but our cost of goods sold has gone from 600 down to 500. Our gross margin dollars is $500, and our gross margin is 50%. So, you know, there's different ways to increase your gross margin. It's not just about selling more product. It might be a price increase. It might be a cost decrease. It's probably a combination of all of those things. Anyway, that's a little bit of detour about margin and gross margin. Any other comment or question about that? Okay. So the next thing is you need to be nimble and no hand wringing. You know, standing around and wringing your hands over a problem that's in the finances of your business isn't going to solve anything. So stop hand wringing and launch into action. So I believe you need to review your financials monthly and take action where needed. So what are some of those actions? They might be expense cuts. They might be adjustments to your staff hours. You know, the labor is a big cost in most of these businesses. So if you're paying people 40 hours a week and you really only need them for 30 or 35, you really need to think seriously about changing their regular hours. Receivable collection, right? Those receivables on your balance sheet are just unrealized profits, right? You delivered product to somebody, but you haven't been paid. So those are profits sitting out there that you need to go after and make sure you're collecting those. So if your terms are 30 days, on the 31st day, you should be contacting that customer saying, gee, I was expecting your payment yesterday and we didn't get it. You know, is there something wrong? You need to follow up. Because if you ultimately don't collect it because you didn't pay attention to it, that's it takes a lot more sales to cover that lost receivable. A price increase, we're going to talk a little more about price increases. You know, a selective price increase doesn't mean across the board price increase, but in this kind of economy when prices are going up and we're having a lot of inflation, there's certainly justification for some price increases. And if they're tied to the things where your cost went up as opposed to you're just raising the price on everything, then customers are going to understand that. You're going to explain it to them and they're going to understand that. They might not like it, they might grumble a little, but they're going to understand it. So selective price increases is really important in inflationary time. Let's see. You need to. The other thing about being nimble is you need to identify sources of available cash or capital in case of need. So if you do have a little difficulty in your business, you know, where are you going to get the cash to shore it up? Maybe you've established a line of credit with your bank so that you've got that flexibility if you are short on cash, that you can draw some additional cash into the business. Maybe it's coming from your own pocket, your own savings, if you need to bring a little extra money into the business. Maybe it comes from family and friends, but you need to have identified what sources there are for that, and make sure it's available to you when you need it. Try to anticipate supply chain disruptions and order things sooner or in larger quantities so that you're not as susceptible to supply chain disruptions. So, so why is 2022 not expected to be your best year? So this is another way to think about, what's going on in the current year and what might I do about it, right? So it's a little bit of analysis about how things are going in the current year. We're more than, we're almost 2/3 of the way through the year. Certainly you've got good records for halfway through the year. How's it going compared to the year before? And why isn't it as good? So are your production yields different, or did you lose some key customers? Did you have lower cash flow? Higher input costs? Is that what's causing the difference? Did you have unplanned spending for equipment or facilities? So, repairs are a tough issue in a lot of businesses if they've got some older equipment. That can be really challenging for a business. But if that's what's causing it, you've got to figure out, well, what am I going to do about that, going forward. The enterprise mix. So is the enterprise mix different than you expected when you planned the year? Maybe you've got too much short-term debt. And then last on the list, this is really important because in many businesses, this is a problem. They're not sure why they're not doing as well as they expected to do, or not doing as well as they did the year before. And that's a red flag. You need to figure that out in order to do anything about it. So it's really important to not be in that category of you're not sure what it is.
Quick question.
Yes.
Enterprise mix, I don't know what that is.
Lines of business, different lines of business. So with Joel, he's got the bakery, he's got the,
Yep.
right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so,
I should have known what that meant.
yeah, that's all right. No, good question.
It's late in the day, it's okay.
Yeah, and you're shot up with Novocaine. It's probably affecting your brain.
It probably doesn't take much.
Plan ahead. So this was one of the other things. I think you should be developing now a monthly cash flow forecast for 2023. It's not too early to start on that in an unsettled time like this. Start early, because that gives you the best opportunity to deal with the shortcomings. Identify significant upcoming cash commitments and figure out where you're going to get the money to cover them. Establish some cash reserves. So, if you can squirrel some money away for that inevitable rainy day, that will help, or you establish a line of credit or something that gives you some flexibility. It's a time to think about the strengths of your business so that you can exploit those strengths, and to think about the weaknesses so that you can address those. Stay focused on the larger, most profitable customers. So this is a really important point in my opinion. Everybody who's out trying to get more sales, they're always looking for new customers. But the easiest place to generate more profitable sales is from your existing satisfied customers. And so if you can find ways to sell more to those existing satisfied customers, that's where you're going to make your profit and loss sing. Rather than, and you've got to search for new customers too, but that group is really important. The satisfied and profitable customers. So not all customers are equal in terms of their profitability. In the service business, you probably, see that some people, really are hard to get the right price out of. And so it's, but other people are recurring, satisfied, good paying customers. Those are the people you want to make sure are real happy, and you're selling them more services. Increase your emphasis on brand and product differentiation, right? If you can continue to help people understand that your product is better than your competition, your service is superior, then you're in a position to command a higher price. They will happily pay a price that's a little bit higher to you if you have outstanding service, and they're convinced that your brand has quality. look at LL Bean, right? We all, probably most of us buy stuff from LL Bean. We know they're not the cheapest source of anything, but we know that they have quality products. They'll stand behind it. They'll take it back if it's scratched. I mean, it's unbelievable, and so you're willing to pay a little bit more for somebody like that. And last one here is to improve productivity and efficiency. So the plan for the balance of this year and for next year is there's only two things you can do. You've got to increase revenues, and you've got to decrease your costs. So what can you do to increase your revenues? These are some of the things. You can sell more, grow more acres of X or produce more Y. You can sell more to existing profitable customers, the same point we just talked about. You can add products or services, but it needs to be products or services that customers want. You need to know that it will sell in the marketplace, and this is one of the mistakes that a lot of businesses make. Is they just go ahead and add some things, and they haven't really assessed whether or not there's a need for it. And so they sell some, but not enough to make it worthwhile, and pretty soon they're withdrawing the product. Sell at higher prices. Find more markets or sales channels. Maybe if you're not selling online, maybe there's an opportunity to sell online. You can do some wholesale sales, maybe as well as your retail sales, if it's priced right. Maybe you're not selling business to B2C, business to customers, direct to customers. That's a great opportunity if you're not doing that. Maybe there's an opportunity to sell business to business. So think about your channels and your markets to figure out whether there's some additional sales opportunities. Step up your social media marketing activities. The social media marketing stuff really works, but it's not for everybody. And so if it's not for you, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It means that you've got to get somebody else who will do it, a family member, a friend, a paid consultant, but somebody who's going to help you with some of that social media marketing, because it really works for customers of a certain age group. Maybe you need to create a targeted marketing plan. So let's go to the cost side. I'm sorry, this is price increase considerations. And so we'll probably come back and talk a little more about this when we get to the discussion. And I'm almost done here on the presentation part. But what goes into price increase considerations? Certainly your cost increases, the question of what will the market bear for, a quality product. You need room for promotions. Sometimes you need to have some specials, not discounts. You never want to discount anything, but you might have some special pricing. And a special price is something that is in place for a finite period of time. This week we're having a special price on X or Y. When you get into discounts, customers become addicted. And they expect, if you give them a discount once, they expect to always get a discount. It's hard to end it. And so that's why you want to be more price promotions as opposed to discounts off your standard price. If competitors are increasing prices, that certainly gives you an opportunity to increase your price. Customers have an expectation that during these inflationary times that there will be price increases. They're seeing it at the grocery store. They're seeing it at the gas pump. They're seeing it in the things that they're ordering online and so forth. So they expect it, and so this is the time to do it if you're going to do it. Superior products and services. If you're in that situation, then you're going to have an opportunity to increase your price. And in the end, the business needs to be financially sustainable, right? If the business isn't consistently profitable over the long term, you're going to be out of business eventually. And that's not going to be good for your customers or for you. So the business needs to be financially sustainable, and one of the ways to contribute to that is with price increases. So I know it's always a little dicey to do price increases, so I understand people having angst about that. So the other side of the equation for next year is decreasing your costs if you can, right? So you need to keep a tight leash on your costs, and you need to decrease or drop low-performing enterprises or lines of business. If you can add some automation or technology that can help you substitute for high-priced labor, that can help decrease your costs. If you can increase your efficiency of some of the operations, that'll reduce your cost per unit. Reducing waste, that's a really big one if you're in the food business. Or processing mistakes, or service deficiencies, right? If you didn't deliver a quality service to the client, then you may have to come back and do some of that work over again, or at a steep discount, or maybe free to make it right for the customer. So if there's a way to reduce those kinds of things, it's going to help your cost equation. Limit capital spending. So defer construction or purchases of a new piece of equipment during an uncertain time. Don't buy assets for tax deductions. Okay, so I see a lot of small businesses that, they get to the end of the year, they talk to their tax guy, and they come away and they're convinced that they need to buy a new piece of equipment or a new truck because they can write it off for tax purposes. So yes, it lowers your income tax obligation, but it uses up all your cash. So if you need cash in your business, that's not a very good strategy. So, it's sometimes the small businesses are a little too driven by trying to minimize the amount of tax that they have to pay. And the tax guys, he's right there rooting for that solution, right? Because that makes him look good. So anyway, just be careful of that particular one. And another one is matching employee hours to needs. Big impact.
Can I add to your comments as far as the trying to get your taxes down as low as possible? I'm not an accountant.
Yeah.
However, there are reasons why you would want to have taxable income and profits. If you ever want to sell your business, you need to show that you've got profit. The other is when it comes time for all of us to collect Social Security, whether it's there in some capacity or whatever it's going to look like, is that we want to be able to collect some of that to have some piece of our income. It's not going to be the whole component, but there's reasons to show profits as opposed to trying to get it down to scorched earth. And with tax laws changing potentially, to try and figure out how to get the tax-free income into your system, I think into your own personal assets is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent points. Excellent points. Yeah, the point about selling a business, when somebody wants to buy your business, if the proof they're going to want to see about how profitable your business is your tax returns, your Schedule C or Schedule F, and if they show break even or losses or very small profits, for the last 3 years, what's that going to do to the purchase price, right? It's going to push it way down. So, that's a problem. I'm working with a client right now that's trying to raise some equity funding through venture capitalists, and one of the things the venture capitalists want to know is, well, what do the profits look like for the last 3 years, right?
Can I make a comment about matching employee hours to needs? That can be easier said than done, and I think it takes a lot of managerial control to be able to identify that appropriately, especially if you're in like, if you're manufacturing something. I think you have to be really educated in how the process is working. You know how it's supposed to function, and is it functioning that way? That's one thing that we've kind of we've struggled with a bit in the past. And I think that the key to that is just having better control about those things, and that's really difficult because you can only control so many employees. And when I mean control, I don't mean a negative. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's just in like a business term. You can only control so many people, and so when something grows and then you begin to lose control, and then your costs begin to fly, that's when it's very difficult.
Right, right.
So almost like part of that, there's another component to your need, matching employee hours. It's management.
It is management, and it's not week to week. You don't make these kinds of changes in the real short term, but when you're looking back at last month, and you can identify that, geez, we really didn't need all of those hours. Let's see what happens next month. We'll monitor it a little more closely, and the same thing happens. It's time to make some changes. So you don't change those week to week. And it is tough because you're talking about people's livelihood, right? If you're cutting somebody's hours from 40 back to 35, that impacts the amount of money being contributed to their home budget. So, on the other hand, you got to figure out, how to best match up the employee spending with what the needs of your business are. So the last sort of area here is this idea of act promptly. You identify something that needs to be done in your business, you should act promptly to do it. You don't have the luxury of time to consider it for the next 2 or 3 months in an unsettled economy like we're in. So many businesses are raising their prices now. If you're thinking about it, this is probably one of the easier times to do it. Many are cutting overhead expenses now or planning to. So trying to figure out, are there some things in the overhead that maybe I can manage down. So an example might be your insurance expenses. If you haven't had your insurances requoted for the last 3 or 4 years, well, maybe it's time to do that again now and see if there isn't an opportunity to lower that fixed cost to some extent. Or maybe the need for some of those coverages has changed, and so that needs to be updated, and maybe that results in a lower cost. When your gross margin deteriorates, okay, when that 40% margin goes down, you want to be all over it. You want to analyze it, understand why, and make the adjustments you need to get it back to where it needs to be. You want to focus your efforts to grow. Growing everything is probably not the right strategy. You want to grow the things that are going to contribute the most to your business, the most profitable contribution to the business. Another thing is to talk with your lender when you see storm clouds ahead. The bankers hate surprises. So if you can talk to them when you see that, the next couple of months are going to be kind of rough cash flow for me, and you talk to your banker about that, they're going to be a lot more amenable to, deferring your payments for a couple of months if that's what you need, if you've been proactive in talking to them about it. So they can be your partner in this if you'll allow them to. Explore your change ideas with a mentor or somebody you trust to, bounce your idea off from and see if they think it makes sense based on your analysis that you've done. Adopt new technologies, maybe those can help you, and step up your customer service to help differentiate your business. So just in summary, You need to review your pricing regularly. If your last price increase was before the pandemic, it's probably time. Know your numbers, reflect and analyze your results so you know what to do, plan ahead, and act promptly when changes are needed. Your business sustainability really depends on that. So I've actually drafted some discussion questions. We talked a little bit about the first one, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. What's your biggest challenge for your business in 2022 or 2023? Now that we're 2/3 of the way through 2022, maybe it's the biggest challenge you see ahead for next year. Have you increased your prices in 2022? And we could have some discussion about why you did or why you didn't, because that might be informative for everybody in the room. Do you review your financial information monthly? So how do you monitor what's going on in your business, in your particular business? So some small businesses I see, they sort of pull the numbers together at the end of the year when it's time to take the stuff over to the tax guy. It's hard to manage a business that way. They're managing by how much money's in the bank account on a day-to-day basis or at the end of the month, not by what the financials are really showing them. So they're not seeing that their margin has deteriorated and that they ought to do something about it, for example. And the last one is, what will you do if a recession causes your sales to level off or even to decrease? How are you going to handle that? So we can discuss those in any kind of order and that people would like, or any other topic that people would like to kick around a little bit.
We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. To join the conversation and find out more about the membership benefits, services offered, and upcoming events hosted by the JLLF Chamber of Commerce, go to our website at j.livermore-lf.org or call 207-500-2464. Our mission is to facilitate economic growth, support our communities, and promote opportunities for prosperity in our area. We envision a thriving community of diverse businesses and cultural events with positive values and purpose. You can also reach out to us via email at info@j-livermore-lf.org.